9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're not watching this live, if you were watching it, it's sometime in the future after November 13th. For the first time, you should know that these videos play live, uh, 9 p.m. Eastern, every Wednesday evening. And EB and Mimi and Concha and Laura and Susan, so good to see all of you tonight. As most of you know, we have a lot to talk about tonight. So I hope you get comfortable, or is it comfortable, wherever you are, and get comfy. I know that it's even gotten a little chilly here in my part of Florida, so cozy up, whether you're watching on your computer, your phone. Maybe some of you even have one of those smart TVs where you can watch YouTube on your 56-inch plasma TV. My dad has one of those. Maybe you're watching it that way. But everybody get comfortable because we have a lot to talk about. And about some topics that maybe all of you already know about. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Hemphill County the last week. Of course, we cannot avoid it. Going to be talking about what's going on in Murfreesboro, Tennessee in the Devon Bond case. And if we have time, I also want to talk about Jennifer Kesse and what's been going on in that case, some of my opinions regarding that. I hope my voice holds out because there's a lot to talk about. Let's see who we have in here. Jasmine and Jessica. Hello, Heather. Alicia, Emily, Katrina, Tracy, another Laura, and PJ, and hello, Carrie. Good to see some of my assistants in here this evening. I think that Cherie will be joining us. Surely she's not going to miss this show tonight. Hello, Anne. And Raina says, love you. You rock. Well, thank you, Raina. That's very kind of you. Everything is going great with me. Everything is good. Feeling great. Hello, Jen. And played some disc golf this past weekend and played well. And I'm going to be right here in Clearwater is where I played. And I'm going to be playing a one-day tournament this weekend in Ocala, which is about 2.5 hours north of here. I'll be leaving, I don't know, around 11 or something on Saturday morning. Get up there, practice this course. I haven't played this course since like 2014. And then it's just a one-day tournament on Sunday, 2 rounds of 18 holes, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the Lauras are slowly taking over. Yeah, a lot of Lauras out there. Hello, Annette. Good to see you. So I'm doing good, feeling good. I've actually, as you can probably realize, been busy getting Friday's episode, and we're going to be talking about Friday's episode as we always do on these Wednesday night shows. We'll be talking about that towards the end of this show. It's the disappearance of Tim Guy from Georgia. It's a disappearance that's over 30 years old. There she is. There's Cherie. Hello, Cherie. And Jill. And Carla. So everything is just going very well, but I've been very busy. In addition to, I'm starting to get this place a little ready. My dad will probably be down here within the next month. So I've started straightening some things up, making more room for him, trying to clean this room up because this room that I am in is his room. So I've been doing those things because that is a topic that's been coming up more and more with my dad, being that it already has snowed where he lives in Pennsylvania. Hello, Carol. Let's first talk about, I got a lot of questions from people to answer as well tonight. So, but first let me talk about the poll from last Friday's episode, The Disappearance of Bradley Allen. This is the first poll in which the most popular answer was something else. I put in there, did Brad Allen's, some of the choices that I put in there was, did Brad go to his dealer's place and his dealer murdered him? Did he go to his dealer's place and he overdosed? I threw out some different things. and people, the most popular choice was something else. And I think within that, and nobody picked that he walked off and is still alive. Nobody picked that choice at all in the discussion group, which I think is noteworthy. I think that given that something else is was the most popular answer, I'm going to decipher that to say that a lot of people suspect that his girlfriend Megan is not telling the truth as to what happened that night, and I'm totally open to that. I don't know what the truth is, but I think it's fair to say that I think it's totally logical to think that she's not telling the total truth. And I think that that's where the something else, I'm going to keep doing that, these little rabbit ears, quotes. I think that's where the something else choice, that's why it became, in this particular disappearance, very popular. I don't remember kind of a, like, another choice or something else or some choice like that being number one in any other poll that I've done on any other case that we've covered. I think this is the first time. So I think that's interesting. I just do. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, we have a discussion group on Facebook. It has 6,000 some members in it. In fact, one of my assistants was telling me today that being that we're going to be talking about Devon Bond's case, that I guess during that episode I mentioned how many people were in the discussion group when we covered that case, and it was 3,600 people, members, and that was like early this year. So during the course of this year, we've added on about 3,000 members since the Devon Bond episode, which I think came out in January or February of this year. So I thought that that was pretty interesting, and I thank everybody that has joined in the discussion group. But if you're on Facebook, you're not in the discussion group, please do a search for it, and we'll let you in. And it's a private group. Paula, what's going on? Linda, good to see all of you tonight. Thanks for joining in. So that was the poll, and what I'm also additionally talking about, once again, for people who don't know, every week on the morning after the episode airs, I post a poll in the discussion group asking for people's opinions. I pick out some different selections. There might be 3 choices, 4 choices, 5 choices. I try to cover a wide array of possibilities. It just depends on the case. And people are free to express their opinions on what happened by choosing one of those choices or writing in the comments below. Carrie says we now have 6,424 members in the discussion group. Wow. Okay. And like maybe it was Carrie herself who told me earlier today that we had about 3,600, very close to the beginning of this year. So it continues to get bigger and bigger. And I can remember, it must have been around 3 years ago, that group only had 62 people in it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I thank all of those people who took part in the Bradley Allen poll. And of course, we did a think tank on it on Sunday night as well. And I'll be talking about the think tank later. Let me answer, like I said, we got a lot to talk about, but some people took the time to ask me some questions about myself, about the program, and I want to make sure that they don't get lost in the shuffle tonight because we have a lot to talk about. Jaynelle, Jeynelle, if I am pronouncing that, maybe it's just Janelle, but it looks like Jaynelle to me. She asked me what case got me into true crime. Janelle, if you're out there, if you're watching tonight, or you're going to watch this video later, I want to, it's hard for me to say that there is a particular case or disappearance or murder or anything else that got me into true crime. I actually think that that's kind of 2 different questions. There's a difference between what got me into the the things that we cover here, and then what got me into actually starting a program. It's two totally different answers. As far as just my interest in mysteries and things, that's been like a whole life thing. I'm 49 years old. It's been a whole life thing, going back to the 1970s, watching In Search of and shows like that. Okay. Now I will tell you some of the maybe some of those uh, In Search of episodes with Leonard Nimoy that stick out to me. Amelia Earhart sticks out to me. Chariots of the Gods the Nazca Lines stick out to me. The Bimini Road. You know, some of those episodes kind of stick out to me. Now that I look back at those episodes, now they seem a little cheesy, and as an adult, I know that there was some fiction that was being added into the fact. But as a kid, 7 years old, 6, 7 years old, I was totally transfixed by it. Could not take my eyes off it, and I think that I have seen all of the In Search of episodes. So I think it's an innate interest of mine, Janelle. As far as the program, that's a longer answer. But I think that the reason that I chose to do missing persons cases, in contrast to unsolved murders or heists or UFO stuff, which I really don't believe in, but I think I could still cover it objectively, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The reason that I chose missing persons cases is because they are the toughest of the toughest of the toughest. And I think that after 150 cases, I know that that is more true than ever, or truer than ever. That's why I picked missing persons cases. They are the ultimate, and I don't say that in a nice way, they are the ultimate mystery. They really are. And I think on top of that, you know, of course, we cover a lot of old disappearances on Unfound, but we cover a lot of new ones too, newer ones. And to know in the 21st century, with 330 million people in this country, and all the phones, and all the videos, and all the technology, that people can still go missing is something. It doesn't seem possible, but it is possible. And so that's the reason that I chose to do a program on missing persons, because it's the ultimate mystery. You don't have DNA. You don't have a murder weapon. You don't have a scene of the crime or anything like that. That's what makes these cases so difficult. But I certainly love a challenge. Let's see what some of these people are saying. Um, Shelly says, if I'm not in it, how do I get into the group? Well, you have to be on Facebook, Shelly. You have to be on Facebook first. And then you do a search for the Unfound Podcast Discussion Group. Just click on it, click join, and then myself or one of my administrators will let you in. But you have to do a search for it on Facebook. You have to be a Facebook member to get in there. Shelly says, yes, disregard. I'm in that group. Oh, you're in there, Shelly. Okay, well, you're in. Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you, Linda. You're Christy. It's okay that you're late. You haven't missed too much yet. So sure, he says, I love a good heist. Renee says we need people that can RE about the miss in It's So Crazy here in Arizona. I don't know what that means, Raina. Alicia, have you heard about the 15-year-olds just found? Christopher Johnson was the guy who grabbed her and held her over for a year. Alicia, I'm not familiar with that. Unfortunately, I have not seen that. I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to talk about what has gone on in the Devon Bond case. It's very sad news, but I do want to talk about that. Karen asked me, and she was a little touchy about this. Essentially, I'll just read the question. I don't want to put her on the spot too much regarding this, or I'll just ask, hold on a second. Hold on a second, and I will read the question verbatim, which is a great word. Let's see. Okay. Karen asks me, this is personal, so if you're not comfortable answering, I understand. What are your future dreams as far as marriage and children go? You're a great catch, and I would love to maybe hear you team up on here with the love of your life. Okay, and I told her I would answer that as comfortable. I may answer some of that. Um, I think the best way to describe me is that I am probably your stereotypical bachelor. Okay, I don't have a much better explanation than that. My alone time is very important to me. I've had roommates. I had roommates when I lived in Las Vegas. Uh, for more than half the time that I lived there, I can live with other people platonically. And these roommates were women, and we got along great. Crystal and Jennifer, and unfortunately, I forget the name of the other woman that I lived with. It was great. Platonic friends, totally fine and everything. But, uh, you know, just not much of a relationship guy. I like just my alone time. I like to concentrate on the things that I'm working on. I'm not one, I'm not much of a guy or a person who likes to check in, feel like I have to check in with somebody every day. How was your day going? My day went, it's just not part of my personality. I know that with this program, I interview people, I'm genuine and everything else, but it does not bother me. I could be in my condo that I have here for days, never leave it, never see another soul, and it really doesn't bother me. I'm serious about that. I can be in this place from Monday through Friday, never take the elevator downstairs, never go to my car, nothing, and I'm totally fine with that. That's just the kind of person, and have no visitors or anything, and just do what I do. So that kind of personality and situation and mindset usually is not good for relationships. Um, but also, you must understand that, um, I do, when it comes to this program and my personal life and everything, as I've told my assistants, as I've told other people, I would never date, of course, any of my guests or anybody in the families of my guests. I would never date. I'm just gonna, I just have to be honest that I know that there are podcasters out there, even many men in true crime, who have these meetups because they want to meet women. Because the Unfound audience and all these other true crime programs, they're 80% women. I know what the demographics are of Unfound. It's women between the ages of 30 and 55. And there are men out there who host podcasts. The only reason they go out for meetups is to meet their female listeners, and hopefully something happens. Whatever that is, I'm like the opposite of that. But that's just who I am, and I think that anybody, if you were to talk to any of my longtime friends and people who have known me well, that have worked with me and everything, they'll tell you the same thing. That I'm the type of guy, I'll go to work, but as soon as work, when I used to have a job where I had to go somewhere, as soon as work's over, I get in the car, I go home. I don't go hang out with my coworkers. We don't go to the bar. We don't go to TGI Fridays. I don't go bowling with them. As soon as I'm done, I go home. It's the same way with disc golf tournaments. I go and play at a disc golf tournament. I'm friendly to everybody because I am a friendly guy. I love seeing everybody. But when the last disc is thrown in the basket, I pack up my stuff and go home. So that's just kind of the person that I am. So I don't know if I have any romantic plans in the future or anything. I don't know. And I really don't think about it. And I know some of you know that a very close friend of mine was here at the end of September. She's very special to me. We've known each other for almost 20 years, and but I live here. She lives in LA, and I think we're both that type of person, that I've just explained. So, but she's a very special person to me, and it's good to have people like that in your life, even if you're not into relationships. Um, Hello, Karen. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in tonight. Um, Linda says, enjoy the solitude. That's okay, Rainy. You have a new phone. I get it. Uh, Linda says, now that I have adult children raised and being a grandma and a divorcee, love doing me. That's what I do. I just do me. That's what I do. Shelly says, only child here, and my husband is my perfect yin to my yang. He's my alone time. Uh, Cherie says, none of his assistants are those kinds of women. I'm not even sure what that means. Heather, nope. Carrie, not even one of us. I don't know what that means, ladies, but that's okay men and women can be friends. Valerie, Unfound, sorry, okay. Laura, a brother from another mother. I'm the same. Yeah, some of my best friend. Larry Carey says some of my best friends are guys. Alicia, in the forensics lab, most of the workers are men. We don't have time for flirting. Okay. It's just never been a priority. Me, I was never a kind of guy to be girl crazy. I need to have a date. I have to, looking back at my junior and senior proms in high school, I regret going. I shouldn't have gone. In college, I hung out with a bunch of guys that we just wanted to, hang out, go play basketball, and just not chasing women all over campus and stuff. It was just, I've just never been the type of guy that a lot of guys are that, it's like, we're going to go out and meet some women tonight. Just never, just never that way. But I've had girlfriends and women who were special to me, but that's not how I've gone about my business. The kind of women that meet up with podcasters events. Oh, Cherie, absolutely, absolutely. I know, absolutely true, Cherie. You and Carrie, Heather, Emily, yes, you're the opposite of that. But there are podcast groupies out there. There are. And who are just looking to meet a host and do this and do that. And, I'm just not into that. I'm just not into that. So let's move on. Going from a very light topic like that to a very serious one. Many of you know, over the last few days, there have been some searches going on in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in relation to Devon Bond's disappearance. I'm here to inform all of you, and I know many of you already know, but remains have been found and they have been identified as Devon's. And his remains were found in the general area of where his phone last pinged when he took off that morning, left his house, started walking, and then disappeared. That's, of course, like I just mentioned earlier, that's a case that we covered very early in this year, 2019. I have not talked to his mother about it. I don't have any plans to talk to his mother. I'm sure I feel the same way, like with Zoe Campus's mother, the same way when these things happen. It's not like they have to let me know what's going on. They don't at all. I'm here to help. I'm here to be here in any capacity that any of these people want, any of these guests want. And I never want to be seen as a person when something like this happens that all of a sudden I'm calling this person up, trying to get, what's happening, what's going on. These people don't need that. These guests, these mothers, fathers, family members, they don't need that. Okay, the last, this is, it's horrible news. And, the truth is my job, our job job, Unfound's job, is to find these people, whether they are alive or deceased. I'm not saying that Unfound had anything to do with Devon's remains being found, but this is the reason we do these episodes is to get these cases to come to some sort of resolution, to a conclusion. Whether that means, like in Zoe Campus's case, that she was murdered, or in Devon's, where it seems that this is going toward a situation where he did commit suicide, or something like Thomas Brown's, where it's still up in the air. And of course, Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman's case, that is one that is still up in the air because their remains have not been found, even though a guy is in custody. So none of these guests, when something like this happens, have any responsibility to me at all to let me know what's going on. I would certainly like to talk to Devon's mother somewhere down the road. But that's up to her. And if if we don't talk for a long time, that's fine too. But and at this point, so I don't know any more than any of you do, and it's a little confusing to me. I'm not saying there's not an answer, but it's a little confusing to me how searches were done before in that area, because I know we talked about that area during the interview that I did with his mother. But then now they do the search again. It seems in the same area, and they do find something. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial here. I'm sure that there is an answer. And it's a plausible, sensible, logical, rational answer. I'm sure there is. I just don't know what it is. And in addition, I don't know where the tip came from. Why they decided to go out and do this again. I don't have any idea. Maybe some of you do. I know maybe local news is covering it. I haven't seen anything along those lines. I know that a woman in the discussion group did post some pictures. She lives right there, and she showed some cops walking along her street doing searches in the area. And if you're wondering what this area is, it's Barfield Crescent Road, and at the intersection of Barfield Crescent Road and the Veterans Highway, right where around where those two roads meet, is where they did these searches, which once again is right in the area where his phone last pinged. Why it hasn't been, what they missed before, why they missed his remains, I don't know. Let me read some of these. Okay, this stuff is still dating. We're going to move past that. We're going to be talking about the Jennifer Kesse case a little later. I'm going to Linda ask Edward, do you do investigating as a PI in cases or just podcasts? Well, we do some investigating, Linda. It just depends on how much time we have. I do not have a private investigator's license. None of the people that I work with have private investigator's license, but we do try to email people. We try to talk to people. Devon Bond, Nikki, Bond. There you go. Cherie says it wasn't a tip. It was a planned search, been planned for a few months. Oh, okay. So it wasn't. So it had this search planned for a few months, and on this planned search, they find his remains. Okay. That, I have to say, that doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often. I wish that Devon had been found alive. But I guess the search, being that they were searching that area, I guess it was presumed that Devon was deceased. I guess it was a successful search. Nikki said he's the one who's mom said he may have taken groceries with him and stuffed pillows to make it look like he was in bed. Nikki, that's exactly right. That is the case, yes. Alicia says some scenes are revisited by law enforcement due to there not being enough time or researches for the first search. They might be trying a different search tactic. Alicia, I'm totally open to that. But I guess what I'm saying is there would seem to me to be a problem with the process if Devon's remains were found right around where his phone pinged, and it took them a couple years to find him when it was clear that his phone where it last pinged. Now it could be that he shut his phone off. Of course, there will I think that people have thrown a lot of different theories around regarding Devon's case. Did he go jump on a bus and leave town? Did this happen? Did that happen? And until you solve a case, those are always possibilities. But it seems like the first choice in any disappearance is going to that area where a phone last pinged, especially if there are woods and gullies and lakes or anything else around that area, and search them. That's all I'm saying. Alicia's also saying have been scared either by plants or daylight. Surprising if they didn't use cadaver dogs for the first time though, unless they didn't have it. Velma, my books are all on Amazon. All you have to do is do a search for Unfound. Maybe put my last name in there, Dentzel, Dentzel. Just up in the bar there, just put Unfound Dentzel, and you'll find all the books. Cherie says definite problems with the process. Carrie says, from what I understand, the field was large and heavily wooded. Carrie, I don't doubt that at all. I'm not trying to be Monday morning quarterback, but I'm wondering if eventually something like that is. Unfortunately, I don't remember every word and that I did with the interview that I did with his mother. I'm guessing that we did talk about searches that were done, and I'm just wondering why those searches that were done back at the time when he disappeared didn't find him, but this one did. This is, I mean, it's not as egregious as Zoe Campos's, where, Carlos Rodriguez buried her in the backyard of his own house and the police went back there and didn't find anything. Then 5 years later, they did. It's certainly not like that. That is horrible. This is not as egregious as that. It just causes me to ask some questions. And I think that getting those answers might help us understand other disappearances where searches have, other cases like Devon's, where some man or woman has walked off. There was a search in that area. Nothing was found. Are we now saying that searches in those areas need to be done again for those people? Knowing why they were not successful the first time around might help us look at some other disappearances and their searches in a different light. Linda says, so many found in wooded areas and dumpsters. That's true. Rockstar, you're welcome. Karen, are the Unfound books the only books you've written? No, they aren't, but they're the only ones that are for sale. They're the only ones that are on Amazon now. I've actually written quite a few books, Karen, in the fiction, of the fiction variety that have nothing to do with true crime or missing persons cases or anything like that. But they are not for sale, and that's probably the way it's going to be for the foreseeable future. If I had time to clean them up and do a little editing of them and everything here and there, I might put them out. But as you would expect, I don't have any time to work on anything but what I'm doing now. John also says the woods are very heavily wooded from what I've read. Thank you, Linda. Carrie, I don't see why it'd ever be bad to search the same locations. Okay, Carrie. So, I have to say, though, now that Devon's remains have been found, I kind of think, and I could go back probably and find that poll, because I'm sure I did one in the discussion group at the time to see what everybody thought. I'm going to guess that his remains being found in that general area are not necessarily a surprise. Remember that there was something, as I remember, going on with his girlfriend at the time, and he left in the middle of the night, and he made it look like he was still at home with the pillowcases and all of those things. I'm not sure how many people are really surprised by this outcome. It's horrible. It's horrible. Like I said, I'm not saying that I know that it's suicide. There's nothing that I've read that says so, but um, you have to remember in that episode we also talked about a gun missing, but there was no proof that Devon took it, but it was supposed to be in a certain place in the house and it wasn't. That, of course, made people think that he might have been going off to hurt himself. And that very well may be the case. Cherie, nope, the poll indicated such. Cherie, what Cherie, if you could just be maybe a little more technical with that, what was the number one answer for the Devon Bond case? If you could look that up, I would appreciate it, and just post it there. I'd appreciate it. So it may have just missed. Linda says it may have just missed a bit. That's true, Linda. Any search, it's only going to be as good as many people you have. If it's true that it was heavily wooded, who knows what kind of search people you have out there? Are they getting? Is it raining? Is it cold? Do they decide to, not do what they're supposed to be doing? And they just happen to miss the remains. They're looking left when the remains are on the right. Linda, that's certainly true. That could have happened. It could have. Cherie says suicide. Okay, thank you, Cherie, for getting that information for me. What Cherie is saying is that when we posted the poll for Devon Bond's case early this year, the number one choice was suicide. So, once again, there is no official word on that. But putting all of this kind of together, I think that, maybe they're gonna, I guess it just depends how far he's into the woods and everything else. I mean, if they found him right by the side of the road, maybe he was walking and got hit by a car. I guess that's possible too. But it certainly does have the feeling of a suicide, and I know that I send my deepest condolences to Devon's family. Just the worst. Just the worst. Jessica said, I saw a statement from law enforcement that said it was searched but never properly grid searched. Okay, Jessica. Okay. So some people have already asked, are you going to be doing a, like I did for Zoe Campos's case? Am I going to do a memorial episode for Devon? And some people have asked me, why haven't you done one for like Thomas Brown, being that his remains were found? Well, Thomas's case is still an open investigation. I'm not going to do any in memoriam episodes until the case is closed, like it is in Zoe Campos, where somebody's been charged. I mean, he still has to go to court and everything, but I'm not going to do any of those until we're absolutely 100% clear on what happened. So with Devon Bond, if it is publicized that he did commit suicide and that is what is proven in his family, and once that is determined and that is on the public record, then I will. But I will not do that before then. Carrie, I guess that still could have happened. Somebody freaked and drug him into the woods deeper to not be found so easily. Could be, Carrie. I just don't want to start doing a lot of speculation right here. But I think what we're doing here is combining, as Cherie found for me, after the episode was over, people were able to answer what they thought happened. They thought that Devon committed suicide. And being that he's been found near where his phone last pinged, you can kind of put those things together, but maybe not. Maybe not. And if I hear anything differently, all of you will be the first to know. And maybe you might even find out before I do. So there you go. No cause of, yeah, Cherie says no cause of death has been released. So there you go. So there you go. Barfield, once again, if anybody wants to do the map on that, his remains were found near the intersection of Barfield Crescent Road and Veterans Parkway in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And both of those roads were talked about during my interview with his mother. Okay. Not going to quite get to Tom Brown stuff yet because I meant to talk about this last week, but I didn't. I want being that Rockstar from Orlando. Is that your name? Rockstar of Redondo. I'm sorry, Rockstar of Redondo. Okay, is that like Redondo Beach, California? Is that what that means, Rockstar? I've been to Redondo Beach. I got a parking ticket in Redondo Beach in 1998. In Redondo Beach, I got a parking ticket. And that's true. That's a true story. There's a search, or maybe it's over now, but there was a search going on at Fisher Lake over in the Orlando area over the past week. A tip came in and they were looking for the remains of Jennifer Kesse. This is a case that I've talked about on this show many times before, and I'm not going to get into all of it. On my theories and why and everything else. That's not... what's hard for me to understand. Now, this is true. Unlike in Devon's case where I guess it was a search that was scheduled, the reason that they are searching this Fisher Lake, and I looked it up on a map. I've actually not driven by it, but I've been close to it over there in the Orlando area. What's hard for me to understand is that her disappearance is what, 12, 13, 15 years old. And they're just following up on a tip about somebody seeing something suspicious going on at the lake around the time that she disappeared. And I think that I read somewhere that somebody said they saw a truck pull up and somebody came out with like a rolled up carpet or something and threw it into Fisher Lake. See, you know, this is the problem with missing persons cases. You know, the police are put in a very, very, and we know, and if you followed the Jennifer Kesse case, you know the kind of butting of heads that the Kesses have had with the police. They've been butting heads with the police since day one. And the reason from day one is because when she first went missing, one of the detectives said to Mrs. Kesse, or both the parents, that, oh, I wouldn't worry about her. She's probably off with some guy. She'll be back in no time. Where it was obvious that Jennifer Kesse was not the type of young woman that was going to blow off work for a guy. You know, she wasn't some teenager. She wasn't a 16-year-old working at some pizza place that just decided to not show up because she wanted to go off, with her 19-year-old boyfriend. Jennifer Kesse went to college. She was a professional. She was in real estate. She was obviously a young woman who was planning to climb the corporate ladder. And here this detective says that. And that has set the whole investigation off on the wrong tangent. And I don't think it's ever gotten back onto the right track since then. And of course, we know within the last year, There was a lawsuit that had been going on or something so the Kesses could get their hands on all of the information uh, for Jennifer's case because they feel that the Orlando Police Department, botched the entire thing. So before I say what I'm going to say, I want to just preface that with all this. So when it comes to what's going on now, if these things had not happened over the last so many years, this butting of heads and uh, this bad relationship that the family had with the police, I think that the police could have gotten away with ignoring this tip. And what I mean by that is the odds of somebody coming forward with something that they saw so many years after a person goes missing and remembering it it's like Powerball odds. Okay. The problem is the police now, because of everything that has gone on over all that time, they probably don't want any more bad press, so they have to go out there and follow up on this tip that is obviously not real. Obviously. Now, I know that's easy for me to say, being that I didn't know Jennifer. She's not in my family. I'm not emotionally connected to it. It's easy for me to say I'm not in the police department. I'm not an investigator and all of these other things. Despite all of that, this is what makes these missing persons cases, the investigations get off in all, getting divers to go out into lakes because of some tip. Some person saw something allegedly way back at the time. I'm not saying, and you just watch. They'll find something, and then I'll have to eat all of my words. What I'm saying is, this just doesn't feel real to me. It just doesn't. And I, this is the way I understand what happened. Even if this is something that uh, was a tip that came in. Let's just say it's this. I don't know this for a fact. Let's just say, though, that the Kesse's got all this information, however many pieces of paper it was, regarding Jennifer's disappearance that the Orlando Police Department had. And they went through all the pages, and they came up to this one statement of somebody at the time saw something suspicious that was dropped in the lake a couple days after Jennifer disappeared. And it would seem like it's a good tip. Well, here's the problem. I'm going to guess, Florida has a lot of lakes. You fly over Florida, we're barely above sea level. You dig down 5 feet, you're going to get water. There's probably trash and junk and all sorts of things being dumped, mostly illegally, in Florida lakes all the time. So, are the police supposed to look into every dumping that is reported? That it might be a missing persons case? Of course not. Of course not. And being that they've been searching, and by the time I was going to talk about this last week. So it's been going on for over a week now, and they found nothing. Nothing. Which doesn't surprise me at all. And Fisher Lake, it's not like it's Lake Superior. It's not that big of a lake. And if this person did, they should be able to say, well, yeah, that was dropped in right here. If a body was dropped in the water and it was weighted down, if that's what it was, it should still be right there. Unless somebody came and got it back out, I guess. But whoever called in this tip should be able to say, yeah, I saw the person. They dropped it off on the northwest side of the lake, about 20 feet out. It should be right there. Well, there's no reason to look anywhere else in the lake if the tipster says that it happened at a certain point. And they found nothing. And, unfortunately, I predicted this when I heard that you know, and you can go back. I don't know. It was on this YouTube show sometime earlier this year where I was of the opinion, I still am of the opinion, that the Kesses have gone about this the wrong way. Okay? The way Penny Meek, Tom Brown's mother, has gone about things is the right way. The way the Kesses have gone about things is the wrong way. And when I heard they were suing the police department and all these other things, I just said, whoever they are getting their opinions from, whoever is shepherding them through all of this, they're making huge mistakes. All right? Because eventually you need the police whether you like it or not. Somebody has to, if Jennifer was murdered and her body is found, somebody has to go and handcuff the person or persons who are responsible. And you're going to need their work, their paperwork, and everything. It doesn't help to take them to court. You know, and you know, the problem that I have now that I know about 150 cases, what the Kesses have experienced certainly is not as bad as some of my guests have experienced. Certainly not. I mean, every police department out there makes mistakes. Every police department out there, you know, is not educated enough on missing persons cases. Um, so I don't, you know, I think they just when I heard that they were suing and they were going to get all these records and everything else, I was like, I don't know what that's going to do. If there was anything in those records that could have pointed the police to figuring out what happened to Jennifer, I'm sure they would have done it for the simple reason to just get it off their books, being that her disappearance was so high profile. They would do it. That they haven't been able to do it, maybe they just don't have enough information. Maybe it's not the police's fault. Maybe it's just there's just not enough information, which we can say about most disappearances. And that isn't something that should be litigated in court. It shouldn't be. I just think it's unfortunate. And I think that this is one of those things. Carrie says, unfortunately, there's not much training available for law enforcement. That's totally true, Carrie. I agree. Rockstar says, yeah, those first investigators really screwed up. They did, Rockstar, but most first investigators screw up. They do. Katrina, please listen to the Tico. We're going to be talking about that before this is over. We got a long ways to go. I know we've already been in an hour, Katrina. Don't worry, I'm going to get to that. But I wanted to talk about this because I think this is a learning situation for everybody. That I would never counsel any of my guests to sue a police department. I think instead you do what Penny did for Tom's case and other people have done. They take it somewhere else. If they aren't getting relief from the local police or the local sheriff's office, they go to the state police. If it's not the state police, they go to an attorney general. There are ways to move these cases. In some cases, maybe it takes signatures. Maybe it takes this. Maybe it takes that. But you don't take a police department to court. You don't. I think it's a bad look because what can happen is that what happens if Jennifer Kesse's case is still unsolved 10 years from now? Then I guess it wasn't the police department's fault that they couldn't solve it. And like I said, I think they're getting bad advice. What would I say to the Kesses? I think that I'd have to know more about the behind the scenes stuff, which I don't know. I don't know any more about the case than any of you do, just what the public knows. I think that if I were to cover her case, I would find out about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. The problem, you know, and Rockstar, this goes to your original question. Will you ever, um, uh, you know, cover the case? Is that I would like to, Rockstar, but you know, one of my things with all of my guests is I'm very honest with them, and I don't know if the Kesses would allow me to cover her case the way it should be covered, and I'm not going to go into all of that. I've explained that before. So when I first heard about they were doing the search, I was very pessimistic about it, given what the public knows about this tip and somebody seeing something thrown in. That kind of thing pops up in most of the cases, you know, that we cover on Unfound. Somebody allegedly saw something somewhere, somehow, sometime, and it seems like a really good tip. The problem is all these cases that we do are still unsolved. So those tips that sound so good most of the time are lies. They just and that's probably one of the things that I would have told the Kessies if I were working with them, and they, you know, if I had covered their case, Jennifer's case in the past, and then they told me, you know what, we got this tip that somebody saw, I'd just tell them, it sounds like BS to me, and here's why. So, but I realize they're desperate and everything else. I totally understand. Well, all of Unfound's guests are just as desperate, whether the disappearance happened last year or 40 years ago. But I'm still always honest with my guests, and I give them, you know, the reasons um, that they should do this and shouldn't do that. So I do feel bad for the Kessies. It's horrible. It's everyone, all these people. It's all horrible. But families should never put themselves in a position where they come off sounding like know-it-alls and saying, "Oh, well, all we need is the information, and I think the police department's withholding stuff, and you know we're going to take him to court and everything." Well, then you get all the information, and the case still goes unsolved. It's a bad look, and that's a look that I would always tell my guests to avoid. To avoid. Um, Carrie, okay. Um, Heather says, yes, we have to update Ed while he got pretty. Oh, yes, they do. That's true. Katrina, I just have not had the time. A lot of things going on to actually sit down and listen. I'll probably do it tonight before I go to bed, but I've not had the time to listen to those interviews that are now available. But I'm going to still talk about what has happened. So that's what I wanted to say about the Jennifer Kesse case. I do not believe that this search at Fisher Lake is going to bring that case to a close at all. Zero. Um, Rockstar, yes, an adversarial relationship won't help. It doesn't. Heather, he knows all the things that made us mad. Yes, I do, Heather. We're going to talk about that. Okay. All right. Let's move on to everything that's gone on since last Wednesday regarding Hemphill County. Where do I start? Brett Clapp is seemingly coming back. Of course, last week we talked about him being let go. This week we're talking about him coming back, which is something I don't think anybody could have foreseen. In addition, Sheriff Lewis will be resigning. As of this Friday, he will no longer be November 15th, 2019. He will no longer be Sheriff of Hemphill County. What's he going to do with the rest of his life? I don't know. I think that he's going to have a hard time probably getting another job in law enforcement. I think. Um, but the big thing, the stuff that has come out, and is in regards to this supplemental that Nathan Lewis fabricated a month after a missing persons case that we now know for sure was Tom's. So at some point, Tom goes missing in November 2016. A year and a half later, roughly April or May of 2018, he fabricated a piece of evidence, not fabricated a piece of, he fabricated a report. He backdated it, making it look like this report, this piece of paperwork was done back at the time that Tom disappeared, when really it wasn't done until 2018. The reason that this came up is because Brett Clapp, during this investigation and what we talked about last week with all of this training that was faked, Brett said that he found it highly probable that Nathan Lewis could have fabricated training certifications because Brett had seen Lewis fabricate a supplemental in a missing persons case. Once again, we didn't know what it was at the time. We suspected, but now we know. It was Tom Brown's case. Well, now we know, because of these interviews that were done and the information that's coming out from Channel 7 in Amarillo, we now know that the supplemental that he fabricated, that he wrote in 2018, backdated to 2016, had to do with video that was collected from the Dollar General store, which is right next to Frank's. We now know that. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Nathan Lewis, Brett Clapp is saying that Nathan Lewis told him that, yeah, there was nothing on that video. Now, you should know, I've been to Canadian Texas. Despite somebody saying, what was it, today or yesterday, that I've never been to Canadian, I've been to Canadian Texas. I've been in Frank's parking lot. We parked in the same spot that we believe Tom parked in. I've been there. There are no cameras pointing toward Frank's. There are no cameras even on that side of the building. However, Dollar General does have cameras that point out into the parking lot and out into the road that goes past both Frank's and the Dollar General store. It is 2nd Street or Main Street, whatever it is called. So, but Nathan Lewis said that he got rid of that video because there was nothing on it. Now, that's what Brett Clapp said. I wasn't there. This is what Brett Clapp told investigators. That is a lie. Nathan Lewis is lying. Okay? Why do I know that? Because I am sure that the Dollar General manager gave him a video from the correct night that Tom disappeared. I know for a fact that those cameras point out into the parking lot, and that building is very close to the area that can see the road that's going by there. And surely Tom's Durango was on that Dollar General store. Now, Dollar General video. I'm not saying it showed him getting attacked. I'm not saying it showed him getting murdered. I'm not saying it showed anything suspicious, but it surely showed Tom's vehicle. And that is surely something. But what did Nathan Lewis tell Brett Clapp? Didn't show anything. It's just not. It is something. And before you say, well, that's before he disappeared, that's no big deal, Ed. Well, we know about disappearances where people disappearance. What do? Police go out and get videos from Walmart, videos from ATM machines, from banks. Maybe they even use traffic cameras if the traffic camera is actually recording. And these are all of people who weren't missing yet. They were still just going about their lives. And then sometime after that, they disappeared. Still, police still get that video, collect it, and keep it. But for Nathan Lewis, he didn't do that. When that video surely showed Tom's vehicle, when it went by there, and then pulling it, surely didn't show Tom pulling into Frank's, but it surely showed the Durango going by Frank's. Why would that be important? Well, it might show who was following Tom. How about that? It would surely show cars that were following Tom. What we also have to remember is that Nathan Lewis collected video from Alexander's that Penny got to see. Nathan Lewis got and kept the video from down near where the Durango was necessarily found, but for the Dollar General, got rid of it. Said nothing's on it. Very frustrating. Let me just read what some people are saying here. Okay, so some people are just talking back and forth. Rockstar, you're welcome for the Kesse opinion, Rockstar. Thank you. Carrie says some investigator that someone is, all that person would have had to do was check YouTube for the vids you posted while in Canadian. Yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, Carrie. Claire, didn't Nathan own? No, he has a gun. He has a license to sell guns. Claire, he did not have a gun store. Thanks, you're welcome. Carrie, investigation 101, never throw even a scrap of paper away from an investigation, not even quickly jotting down notes, for sure not video. And so this brings us to the next point. If the video was no big deal, and he felt good about getting rid of it, why then would he fabricate a piece of paperwork and backdate it? Why did he feel the need to do that? Why didn't, when the investigators came calling, why didn't he just say, you know what? I looked at the video and nothing's on it. Why even bother with the paperwork at all? It's hard. It's very difficult to understand why he got rid of the video and then why he wanted to fabricate paperwork a year and a half later. It's very difficult to understand. Claire said the video showed Lewis's vehicle, in my opinion. Well, I'm not, Claire, I'm not going to get into that. What I'm trying to show is that we know where Tom was, where his car was parked that night. It was at the junior high school, a place I was in that parking lot. And we know that somehow it eventually got to Frank's just a few minutes later. And the most likely route he would have taken him right by the Dollar General store. Now, is Nathan Lewis really saying that seeing Tom's vehicle on that video is nothing? I've seen cameras. I saw the cameras pointing out the parking lot. They surely can show. Now, it would have been dark. It would have been night. I'm not saying that it would have shown Thomas driving or somebody else driving or anything, but it's something. It's not nothing. But that's the way he portrayed it. Now, so there's that. The other part of it that is probably the even bigger deal. You have to, and how do I put this? Being that I was at Frank's, there's always been something that's bothered me. I will be honest, I've talked to Penny about it. I've talked to other people about it. And here's the point. We've been told forever that the video at Frank's was not working the night that Tom disappeared. That has been the on the record story forever, since it happened. Now it's, and I of course, as you know, I didn't get involved until April 2018, but that's the way I understand it. From the time that I got involved, that has been the story. The additional story to that is that the video, because you have to remember, Frank's is not your usual type of gas station where there's like a convenience store. You go in and there's a person there and everything. It's mainly just pumps. There's no person on scene working. And so it does have video. That would make sense, being that there's nobody, on scene to make sure somebody's not vandalizing the place or whatever. However, at some point, allegedly, between October 2016 and when Tom disappeared, when he went to Frank's, something happened to the video system. I've been told that the guy who owns Frank's was upgrading the video at the time. Getting new cameras or getting a new computer, a new system. Maybe he was going from VHS tapes, to digital. I don't know. But that is the reason that the video cameras were not working, allegedly, the night that Tom disappeared. That is the reason. And then at some point later, the video at Frank's started working again. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know whether to believe that story or not, and that's why I have told Penny and other people I'd love to see the receipts from the owner of that place to prove that his story is true. Okay, I've said that. I don't think in any kind of case you just take those things for granted. I don't know if that's been done. I have no idea. Well, what has come out now, as of today, with these interviews that you're seeing some people writing about, is that, if you can believe this, once again, this is Brett Clapp talking. Can he be believed? I don't know, but this is what he told the investigators. I hope he's not lying to them. He's not, he wasn't talking to me. I'm just telling you what he said to investigators. He said Nathan Lewis told him that the Frank's video was working the night Tom disappeared. You just don't know anymore. This is not me making this stuff up, okay? I know there are people out there who have tried to put words in my mouth and everything else, and all of that is untrue. But I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth regarding any of this stuff. This is just what these people are saying, and this is what they told investigators. So we're all told all this time video doesn't work. Brent Clapp now in his interview when he was being talked to by the T-Cole people says, well, Brent, Nathan told me the video was working. So let me read. Just think about that so I can read this. Did any other Lely watch video or just Lewis? Paula, regarding the Dollar General, I think it was just Nathan Lewis. Obviously, Brett Clapp didn't see it. And he was the chief deputy. He was like Lewis's right-hand man. He didn't see it. So if he didn't see it, who else would see it? Alicia says he fabricated the paperwork because he knew that not having written an examination of the evidence would get his rear in hot water. Getting rid of the video could be obstruction of evidence. Well, at that point, Alicia, isn't it just better to own up that you made a mistake instead of trying to double down and fabricating evidence? He did not fabricate evidence. I keep saying that. That is not true. He fabricated a report. Sherry says not only fabricated evidence but destroyed evidence. Well, I'm inclined to believe he did destroy evidence. Now, what that would have shown, I don't know. But it surely showed Tom's Durango. Surely did. And that's enough. Katrina Klein's theory with T-Cole is very interesting. He has decided to bring up a lot of theories of homicide, not suicide. Well, I know that. I'm not going to get into what Klein is saying. Let me. Laziness. Okay, this is what I want to know, Sherry. What does he have to hide? Possibly, or was it involvement? Clapp held nothing back in his interview with Tico. Well, Carrie, you're right about that. The problem we have is we don't know if he's telling the truth. Okay? We don't know. We have to remember that Clapp seemed more than happy to go along with Lewis's fabricating of training stuff. Brett obviously knew that was going on. Obviously. He went along with it. And it very well may be that now in these interviews that he's doing with Tico, that he's trying to get Nathan, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. What I do know is just him saying this stuff should totally reopen this investigation. And it just, once again, shows that closing this investigation back up in August was a farce. Was a complete farce. Complete. How those people could close an investigation when we now know, I mean, they didn't find out for themselves that Nathan Lewis got rid of a video that probably had Tom's Durango on it. They closed an investigation where all they had to do was talk to a chief deputy who says, you know what? He told me there was video from that night that Tom was at Frank's. And they closed the investigation. It's a joke. It's, I don't live there. I've been there once. I really can't. And I have 150 missing persons cases under my belt now. And I cannot explain to you at all what the hell's going on there. I'm from Pennsylvania, and if this was happening in Pennsylvania, I'd call them Keystone Cops. But this is in Texas. I don't know what to call them. Carrie says reports are evidence in court. I realize that. I guess what I'm saying, Sharia and Carrie are bringing up. What I'm trying to avoid is I don't want to give anybody the idea that that Nathan Lewis was planting evidence or something like that. I'm not saying that at all. I don't know that at all. Because I for the layman, I start talking about fabricating evidence, and then they're going to start thinking about the OJ trial or something. That's not what I mean at all. What I'm saying is that it's now on the record. He destroyed a video from the Dollar General store, which is right next to Frank's. Then a year and a half later, he came up with paperwork to show that he did it or whatever it showed. And then on top of that, in an interview with investigators, Brett Clapp says that there was video from Frank's. That's what Nathan Lewis told him. Could it be any a bigger deal than that? Could it be? I mean, really, could the news be any bigger? Except for we find out who actually murdered Tom. Could the news be any bigger than the destruction of a video and then finding out that the video system we'd been told since the beginning didn't work actually might have been working? And I got to tell you, I've suspected for a long time that the Frank's video was working. I just want you to know that. I'm not trying to be hindsight 2020 or super smart guy or anything like that. But there's always been a suspicion of mine. And then you throw in this picture that Penny and others saw of Tom pumping gas that night. I haven't even talked about that. So I'm going to, now, being that I just brought that up, now that we know that Nathan Lewis disposed of a video from the Dollar General store next door, isn't it now more probable that he actually did have a picture of Tom pumping gas that night and got rid of it? Doesn't it make that more probable now? Doesn't that story now make sense that maybe there was a video and he did get rid of a picture and he did get rid of it? Now that we know that he did get rid of a video and didn't want to tell anybody about it? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Um, well, Shelly, Clapp should have said something way before now. Shelly, that's and and that's the big deal. And we can't forget that. We don't know that Clapp is telling the truth, but on his word alone, all of this should be reopened back up. All of it. I think there is enough probable cause to reopen this investigation and look into these things that he has said. Alicia says absolutely. Alicia should have admitted his mistakes so someone can go in and clean up the reports. Him doubling down just messes the entire case even more. Now all we have to look at is the chain of custodies. Paula says it doesn't really matter what the video showed. It shows that Lewis, for whatever reason, had something he did not want seen. Carrie, it sounded like in the interview he was blindsided with the fabricated training documents on his first meeting. You mean Brett Clapp, Carrie? You're gonna don't please don't use pronouns with that. Sheree lied to the Rangers. Nathan Lewis surely, and that's something else you have to understand. What it was obvious to me from the training report. It wasn't just that Lewis fabricated that training stuff. He even lied to the people who came in and were talking to him about it. Other police officers, other law enforcement officers. He even lied to them about it. He wasn't like when they walked in, he was like, you know what, guys, you got me. My fault. I apologize. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I got caught up in this. He tried to lie to them too. Alicia says, I want to see Lewis questioned under oath. I think that's. OU Sooner says, I don't think the case was closed. I think it was a ploy. Well, that's something interesting. First, Michelle says, I believe Lewis lies quite often. And in Texas, we just call them cops. Yeah, okay. OU's Clapp actually states it was Franks and Dollar General. I know. OU Sooners. I know. Alicia says, sound like Lewis cut corners to speed the case along, destroyed evidence and fabricated reports so he couldn't be held accountable. He's not malicious, just shady and deplorable. Well, Alicia, that is probably a very favorable, that's about as favorable an opinion as I think we're going to get at this time. Carrie says, this, in my honest opinion, just shows he's willing to destroy a picture too. Yeah, if he'll get rid of a video, what about a picture? And you remember all those people, oh, he would never do that. He would never, that picture doesn't exist. That's something that Penny made up. Well, now we have evidence that he got rid of a video from Dollar General and fabricated the report on it 18 months later. Oh, I just know Canadian too well. They do not let things just fall apart and not work properly. Well, don't know. Christy says, yes, Ed, the photo and now the video. Michelle agrees with it as well. Yes, agree. OU Sooners. Clapp spoke that he has been working behind NLU's back with the investigators. Well, Clapp's saying a lot of things. Yes, Jasmine says, yes, reopen the case. Carrie, yes. Sorry, Brett Clapp stated that his first meeting with T. Cole, he was blindsided with the fabricating trading documents. I'm not, Carrie, I don't know whether I believe that or not. And remember, we still have this issue of that meeting being recorded back in August. We still don't know who did that. I hope that comes out eventually. Carrie says, Clapp stated he was held up for 6 hours with his first meeting with Tico, and Lewis left Clapp to handle it. Yep. Laura, maybe question the Franks owner and why he went along with the no video story. Laura, I happen to believe that the owner of Franks is probably, hopefully, going to be talked to a little more seriously now. Heather told him to leave everything as it was until he heard from them. Once again, Heather, please don't use pronouns with this so it can be very clear. Heather, the Franks guy should be in trouble as well if there was video. Paula, people who have nothing to hide nothing. Carrie, we also have to remember this was done before Clapp was released and before Lewis recommended him as the new sheriff. You Sooners, I think they all knew what Nathan Lewis was doing and were covering their butts before rolling on Lewis. Oh, you Sooners, this is why, um, I'm not saying that I totally, totally believe everything that comes out of Brett Clapp's mouth. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if he's going to say these things, then they should be looked into to see if he is telling the truth or not. And I do believe that there probably are people who are lying to cover their butts and everything else. I don't even care about the training stuff. All I care about is the disappearance case. That's what we do here. That's what we do. And if there's going to be somebody there who says that a video was destroyed, I want to hear more about it. If there's going to be somebody there, whether it's a true story or not, that says the Franck's video actually existed, then that is worth looking into. And if it turns out that Brett Clapp is lying, he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But on his word alone, you should look into it. Yeah, I was talking about Clapp. T. Cole told Clapp to leave everything as it was until Clapp heard from them. Okay, thank you for that, Heather. Cherie says Clapp is not excused in my opinion. No, he shouldn't be. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I think that there is enough going on here. There is enough contradictory evidence, or there are enough contradictory stories compared to what the public has been told for the last 3 years to um, reopen everything and to question everything that we even know about this case. Absolutely. But what gets me still is Nathan Lewis saying, "Well, I looked at the video of Dollar General. There was nothing on it. Just not possible. Just not possible." Uh, OU Sooner says agreed 100%. I think this whole investigation needs to be gone over from day one. Cherie, yes. Terry, should be looked into. I agree. Yep. Yep. Because well, yeah, you can look at it a totally different way. If T. Cole or whoever else, the Attorney General's office or the Texas Rangers, don't believe Clapp, then they should just come right out and call him a liar so he can't run for sheriff. One of you have to pick one. Either he's telling the truth and you're going to look into this stuff, or he's lying and he shouldn't be a law enforcement officer anywhere in any country on the earth for the rest of his life. It's one or the other. Um, Michelle says, "I'm so shocked the Texas Rangers walked away. I guess they did believe NL's lies." Well, I could talk about that tonight, Michelle, a little bit. The things I've heard, but I'm not. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to touch it. Alicia says FBI might need to get involved to investigate the department and the case. What a mess. Well, Alicia, the Rangers, and the Attorney General's office have been all through there. So I don't know. And I'm surprised with the local Rangers not pushing the issue. They all hang out and know each other. Yeah. So there you go. That is my take on all of this. Like I said, I'm going to listen to. I want to thank Cherie and Heather and Carrie for listening to those interviews that Clapp and Lewis did with T. Cole and giving me some of the highlights. I'm going to listen to them again. And any additional points I think I need to make will be done in the discussion group. I will just write a post on it. So, who would have known? Who would have thunk it? Nathan Lewis fabricates a piece of paperwork involving Tom's case, and it just happens to be regarding video from the building that was next to Franck's. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't. Katrina says, Klein states in interview that Pine Found remains at 2 a.m. No, it's 2 p.m. Katrina, it's 2 p.m. That was a typo. We didn't talk about that last week, but I know that that's a mistake. Shelley, how will or can they proceed with this case? Wait for them to talk. Well, I think Shelley, I've already talked about that. Was the video from Franck's actually working or not working? And if the owner of Franck's is going to say, well, it wasn't working because I was upgrading the system, and as an investigator, I would say, where are your receipts for your new system? Where are the receipts? Where did you buy the equipment? What did you buy? How long was the video down? What problems were you having? Etc., etc., etc. There's a good place to start. Go to the Dollar General store. Look at the cameras. Ask the manager. 3 years ago, were these cameras pointed in the same exact direction that they are now? Etc., etc., etc. And see what you get. Jessica says those interviews are worth listening to. I listened to them right before I tuned in. Okay. Terry, that's crazy. How could Nathan Lewis do that and think it wouldn't come out? Well, hey Terry, he got away with it for 3 years. Katrina, that's what I thought. The guys will hear Klein states 2 p.m. and why he was out there at that time. Well, I know. I know, Katrina. So that's all I really want to say. Let me answer a couple questions, and then I'm going to talk about Friday's episode. Jill had asked me how the move has been since I moved into this place. I love my new place. Love it. Love it. They're maybe a little too strict for my standards here for a couple different reasons, but I love living in this place. And she did ask me something about Jail Hamblin's case from 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago now. Do I believe that Jeff, Kendra's ex-husband, is the father of JL's son? The answer to that, Jill, is no. I do not believe that, because I believe that if Jeff was, then in the custody issue that happened after JL disappeared, I believe that Kendra and Jeff would have had, or at least Jeff would have had, some standing to get partial custody of the son. That did not happen, so I'm not inclined to believe that Jeff was the one who got JL pregnant. And Laura asked me, maybe it's a Laura that's in here. Laura, how do I feel when I listen to my old interviews? I hear, you know what I hear when I listen to my old interviews? I hear all the questions that I forgot to ask. I'm like that. Even when I was a piano player back in the day, my mother was a piano teacher, so I had no choice but to learn the piano, and I was pretty good, and I played some concerts and things. When I would go back and listen to a recording of me playing, all I would hear are the mistakes. It's just the kind of person that I am. So, and that's why I rarely listened to myself playing the piano. But when it comes to the old interviews, Mary Lau, and going way back to the beginning, what I hear, I think I did fine jobs for not having a lot of experience at the time. But what I really hear are the questions I didn't ask that I should have. Live and you learn, I guess. But that's my impression. Still, I think those interviews that I've done with all these people are better interviews than they've done with anybody else. And that's not to pat myself on the back, but I truly believe that. This Friday, we're going to be talking about the disappearance of Timothy Guy. He disappeared from Forsyth County in Georgia on February 6th, 1987. It's an episode that I'm calling Down on the Farm because he disappeared from a farm. And the guest for this episode is his father, Warren Guy. And I need to thank Anthony at crimeblogger1983.blogspot.com that let me know about this case and put me in contact with Warren so we could get him on the program. I know already where all of you are going to go in this case when you hear the interview and the facts and the things that went on. I'm going to ask you to keep as open mind as you can regarding this, because I think that there are some other points that I try to bring out in the summation afterwards that I've already recorded, um, that maybe can cause us to look at this in a different way. But you're going to hear about how Tim was picked up from work on Friday and then didn't come back to work on Monday. And his supervisor at this farm that he's working called his father, "Hey, where's Tim?" Tim didn't show up for work, and the supervisor who was calling to find out where Tim is said he saw Tim get into a car with somebody on Friday. Unfortunately, this person who Tim allegedly got into a car with has never been located in the last 32 plus years. So there's that. So, but this is a case that's on NamUs. It's a case that is on the Charlie Project. This is a case that, like I said, Anthony, a crime blogger, 1983, has written about. And I think that even in interviewing Tim's father, that Anthony himself, who has already written about the case, learned some new things. So you might want to read up on that, get a little familiar with it before Friday gets here at 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me see what some people are saying. Cherie says the Tom Brown case and all of it stuff is going to get worse before it gets better. That is true. Michelle says, "So glad you love your new place, Ed." Thank you, Michelle. Terry, on your latest episode, the sound of your voice is really low at times. The people you interview is clear low. Terry, it all depends on how you're listening, where you're listening, when you're listening, because you'll have to trust me. I do not mix the audio that way. So if one of the voices is louder than the other, then the issue is on your end. I don't know how to say it any nicer than that. Terry's sound should be getting better. He had a few recording issues with it. Laura, I've seen your growth. Definitely. Thank you, Laura. And Terry. Terry, all I can tell you is if you ever hear any of these interviews where you think my voice is way louder than or opposite or whatever else, that's not how it was mixed. So there has to be something going on in your audio setup that is causing that. And there, I'm not going to get into, I know what those issues are, but I'm not going to get into them now. But that's it for tonight. I think we set a new record for length of a Wednesday night show. Talked about my disc golf. Going to be disc golfing this weekend. Talked about the poll from the Bradley Adling case. We talked about Devon Bond and his remains being found. We talked about all the stuff with the Tom Brown case. We talked about Jennifer Kesse. And I should maybe say one more thing about the audio. And Terry, if you're listening to this, if you are not listening either on Podomatic, iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher, I can't help you. If you are listening on Overcast or any of these other apps that I know are popular, if you're listening on any of those and you're having issues, it's out of my control because those places are not authorized to have the Unfound podcast anyway. Okay, there are 4 places. I send the file to Podomatic, and Podomatic sends the file to 3 places: iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher. That's it. If you're listening on anything else, those other apps are ripping off the RSS feed, which could be the cause of the degradation in the audio. Podomatic's app, free. Spotify, not free. iTunes, free. Stitcher, free. You have a lot of different choices there, and I can guarantee you the audio on those is always going to be high quality. Well, Terry, if you're listening on Podomatic, then it must be something with your speakers. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say it's your fault. What I'm saying is it's not my fault. So I'm going to leave you for tonight, and then, of course, we talked about the disappearance of Timothy Guy, which will be this Friday's episode. Thank you all tonight. I'm glad my voice held out for an hour and 40 minutes. Thank you all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all the great questions. And you will hear me on Friday. Good night, everyone.